Hello, supporters of Minneapolis Public Schools. I'm here to talk about what happened at this week's school board meeting. And it was a tough one. It was not the board meeting that I think anybody in the city wanted to have. It was the board meeting right after many school communities, and by many, I mean most of Minneapolis Public Schools, learned precisely what and how many their budget cuts would be with this really large budget gap that is 110 million at minimum and 115 million is what they're projecting for maximum. I'm just going to talk a little bit about sort of some of the themes that I heard come out of questions. Overall, there was a long time in public comment. What I noticed in this boardroom and in this meeting particularly was that I didn't see the board sort of holding people to their 2-minute time frame quite as tight. I thought that was really human. I really appreciated them just letting people have a moment to express their frustration, their pain, or how much something that was cut meant to them. I think it was a hard night, but I think people needed to just sort of be able to say what they needed to say. And I don't know how much people are going to be able to get back. We still have to cut 110 million, but it was it was a hard, good meeting in that I appreciated some of the really human elements in the room. So the first clip that you're going to see is, again, leave it to our students, our student representative asking, how will students know what was cut? How will students know what parts of their school day are cut? I will say I didn't hear a really strong answer, but I think I've been asking myself this same question, and I even have been asking myself this question in a deeper level. Why weren't students asked? Why when we knew these cuts were coming, didn't we go to elementary school students and say, we don't want you to have to choose between anything in your day? I don't think there's not a doubt in my mind that this school board and this cabinet and this superintendent wanted to cut anything. They don't want to do this. And given the choice, I think our students could have risen to the occasion. And we could have said, look, we can't afford someone in the library all the time and band. Or we could have given kids choices. We could have given parents choices. We could have given principals choices. We could have given educators choices. And what I didn't see in this process was engagement with us about what we could live without. The second cut that you're going to see is Director Ellison asking the board, what equity considerations did we consider? And really they said, look, we tried our best with this. We really did ask ourselves, hard questions. Is this an equitable cut? And I mean, how will we know as a public? What part of these equity considerations will we be able to see? It's really hard to trust a decision when we didn't see the logic process behind that. And I recognize that there's things that they can't tell us. I do recognize that. But I would have liked one or two examples. Here's a way that we decided between this program and this program when we love them both. And this is it was not fun. And here's all this stuff. Show us and demonstrate one or two of those so that we can understand the process that goes in the room. It's a part of repairing trust when things are hard. And then I think finally, you're going to see a clip of Director Cerrillo asking if principals were asked. And I have to say that I think this is a real miss of this process. I think principals could have really done and been able to give a lot more. One of my friends taught me years ago that a principal is sort of like a governor of a small city, right? And they know what their cities need. They know what their students need. They know what their educators need. And I think that it would have been easier to see principals making more of the decisions in this process. And so I'm going to include a clip on that. Just some of the highlights from some of the public comment or from programming where I hear that people are feeling or sharing the impact the most. Our school has citywide magnets that are designed to encourage integration. They are supposed to have a theme like world studies or, humanities or arts or STEAM or STEM. And so much of their budgets were cut. So much of their budgets were cut that I worry how magnet schools will be able to act as magnet schools. How will they be able to do their thematic instruction without that money? Fifth grade band. that's really to see go. I didn't, students are feeling that. We heard from lots of kiddos about that. Assistant principals of 7 North Side schools and 1 South school that is racially isolated or really holds Indigenous students. I have heard from those schools and those communities that that's a pivotal part of what they need, and that was a big cut for them. And then language pathways. We heard that significant cuts were. Now, I've also heard that we're getting ready to reevaluate this, but really, it was a strong presence from organizations like CAL and the Spanish immersion language pathways to really talk about the need that they have for their families. Oh, and Somali families from Lindale came and talked about how much they value the Somali pathway. And then just like the final bucket, which just like feels really huge. It's just overall staffing, right? Everything's getting slimmed down. Class sizes are going to go up. Lots of extra, or people who are there to kind of give those extra things in the building. We can't afford them anymore. And so overall, this is a hard time. This was a hard meeting. And what I would just say to encourage the district is to continue to think about community, families, and parents and educators and principals as partners that can help them with hard decisions, and not that they have to make hard decisions alone and isolated. I think that that would just be my recommendation after having been through that meeting and having watched, this whole process, knowing that it was coming, is I think, look, as hard as this is, it looks like we have to cut even more money next year, or we have to figure out some way to save another $55 million next year. I'm really hopeful that we can use this hard moment as a learning tool and show up differently with our schools and with our families, better next year, maybe even better going forward. But my heart is heavy. This was not a fun meeting to watch, and it's not fun to see schools and educators struggling. So if you find yourself with capacity right now in any way to stop by and bring some donuts or a meal or some stickers, or give your child's educator a hug in Minneapolis Public Schools this week, schools and principals and educators and children could really use it. Thanks for supporting Minneapolis Public Schools.
But how is the district planning to deliver the blow of specific programs being cut to the students affected? Because I know usually the principal or the specific school is letting the students know that something is being reduced, but how will the district step in and inform the students?
Director Ellison.
Beachy, I had the exact same question about equity as Director Norvell. Given that, what we heard tonight and the emails we've had and conversations we've had with community, understanding the differences between our Black, Brown, and Indigenous students and our white students' outcomes, as well as opportunities, I was hoping that we would have an equity consideration document or the impact assessment. So thank you for that question, and thank you for the answer. And to that point, we also heard a lot about 5th grade music and band, and I'd be interested in knowing what's the cost of not just like 5th grade band, like across the district, but what if we just provided citywide, 5th grade band to schools that didn't have it prior to the CDD, and what type of cost would that be? And not tonight, but as we continue talking about it. So thank you.
How were principals part of the conversation and the decision making of during the process of the achievement and integration budget? Was that part of, I hope?
Thank you, Director Cerrillo, for your question. During our achievement integration planning last year, when we're going through the process of putting the budget together, we held several committee spaces where we invited community members, school building site leaders, including principals, central office staff, family members to be a part of that planning space. We did have principals, several principals represented in that space as well.